the story it needs told.
How are you?
I'm doing. Did I do hairdo or?
Stream will start very shortly. It's set for 5 minutes early, so we'll get a picture of nothing.
I won't say anything significant. Did you do your hair or something to do with your hair?
I've done nothing with my hair because no one has.
Well, it looks different. I mean.
It's very long.
Oh, really? Huh?
And the color is not right.
Question for you.
Yeah.
We can change your microphone so that it is push to talk.
Okay. So I would just push it if I need. So right now, if I push it, it turns it off.
Right.
Oh.
So you can make that choice. Most people don't think about it, so they forget to push.
Yeah. Can you mute everybody else?
And they're on.
See if we can get Tony not to touch anything. We've played balancing of the microphones and.
Including the phone?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I moved this a little bit.
Hey, could you get the sheriff not to eat his lunch during 1 o'clock, because,
Is he still doing it?
oh, and plus he's got all his other radios on.
And his phone, he's always texting.
You know, I mean, he is, I sit there, we all know who it is.
Oh.
And the other day I said something to him, he was making noise, I said, were you eating lunch? How could you tell? Oh my God, you can hear the paper crackling and.
I know people, so let me see what I can.
Can you mute him? Because sometimes it is, I mean, it's kind of funny, but every day, oh. Somebody was home one of those days, I could hear a little kid in the background.
At his house.
Not his, but it was somebody else.
Oh.
That was on the phone.
And we'll be
Hmm?
live if we aren't already.
Okay. Me
Hello. Hey. I'd like to welcome you to the meeting. It's not here.
It's remote.
Jerry, the mouse is not working.
There ought to be at least one commissioner or commissioner.
I think they're all here today.
My mouse isn't working.
I didn't want to be there that famous.
What's going on?
My mouse isn't working.
Your mouse.
Who was that last man?
Do you have access to those, that email? see why there's a lot of alarms. Emails coming.
Hello, sir.
Howdy.
Did you see my one email when I asked you for guidance?
Oh, yeah.
You know, I've been kind of answering a lot of questions, but when they start getting like that, it's like, I don't know. I'm not going to speak.
Good morning.
The microphone's on.
I mean, I haven't been a meeting exec.
So I think it's listed as not summer.
I haven't heard from him and the microphone, so I'll call in. Does it just pick up, Director?
Yeah,
What's that?
they join us.
What's the first person?
Oh, so we keep bringing it
Yeah.
close enough.
You hit the wrong number. Yeah.
I haven't heard that.
Morning.
Hello?
Hello, who's
Good
there?
morning. Bruce Brewer here. And Joe Muscatella.
Hey, morning, Joe.
Hey Giuseppe, Chris, how you guys
Hey.
doing?
Doing good, how are you, Tony?
Awesome.
Dog.
You're live. You're good. Everybody?
Do roll call?
Yeah.
We do roll call, have everyone announce. That's on the phone.
Nikki Gutschall from the Controller's Office.
David Smith, Solicitor. Ken George, Maintenance. John LaBelle, Planning.
Jenny Paterno, Planning. Kristen McLaughlin, CEDACOG.
Scott Williams, Planning.
Lauren Strasser, RMS. Brooke Wright, Assessment.
Okay.
Please rise for a prayer.
Dear Heavenly Father, we acknowledge our dependence upon you. Lord, this virus has knocked humanity on its knees and has shown us how truly fragile life is. We have been innovative and creative in our limited knowledge. However, you remind us in these times how fragile and powerless we are. Lord, we repent of our selfish ways. This virus has entered into this fallen world to steal and destroy much of our beauty. It worms its way through the human body and spreads its foul sickness across our counties, our communities, our nations, and the world. We pray earnestly for the heroic medical doctors, nurses, health cares, professionals, and all others who are putting their lives on the line for each of us. May you give them strength and physical immunity so they can push back against this enemy. We pray for the scientists and the disease experts who have worked around the clock on a vaccine and testing. Give them the knowledge, wisdom, endurance as they battle this. Lord, you are the great physician. We pray for the healing of these victims. You are our creator, so we pray that this virus will be destroyed. Comfort us in these troubled times. Father, be with our business owners. Provide them and their employees' needs during these times. Please guide each one of them and help them to recover to give you the glory. Move in the hearts of our public officials. You have instructed us in your word for us to pray for our leaders. Guide them with wisdom, strength, encouragement, and calmness in their decisions. We also pray for the people of this great land to be humble and turn to you, that they would learn unity and not create dissension and division. We praise you for your goodness and your mercy. It is in your name we ask you these things. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning.
It's Tuesday, April 21st. It's 10 a.m. Actually, 10:06 a.m. We have no bid openings. We'll start with 2.0. Nikki Gottschall, Accounts Payable Cash Requirements Report.
Morning, Nikki.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Good. We sent the cash requirements report yesterday. Are there any questions on it?
Yes, it was Baker Tilly,
Mm-hmm.
22,500.
Yes.
Okay, could you explain that?
That is our audit. We pay them in installments. So we have started paying them for the work that they're doing.
So what was their overall contract?
I would have to look at that. I'm thinking it's around 60-some thousand.
Okay. All right, that's all. That's my only question.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
No.
I have a motion to accept the accounts payable.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 So carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki.
The next item's not on the agenda. Commissioner Marabito has a proclamation to read.
I think it's going to be difficult to read this with the mask on.
Yeah.
So, the exciting news is that this is Library Week, and unfortunately, we don't have the folks from the library board system here. I speak too soon. I see one in the audience, Mr. Stout. But we do have a proclamation. If you want to make any comments afterwards, please feel free to. Proclamation. Whereas libraries are more than book repositories, demonstrating the breadth and depth of all they offer to their communities, with opportunities for community engagement, learning, and growth, while delivering new services which more closely connect to residents and their needs. And whereas libraries throughout Pennsylvania have consistently served as valued and needed institutions, library staffs and volunteers strengthen these centers by fueling their efforts to enhance the surrounding community. And whereas the Pennsylvania Library Association is the state's oldest and most diverse professional library organization, serving libraries, library employees, library trustees, and friends of the library groups working to heighten awareness of the various tools and resources, such as STEM programming, workforce development, and life planning tips that libraries offer. Whereas collectively we recognize librarians as information professionals who provide expertise, services, and guidance for patrons to access credible sources and material, making their own informed decisions about the worlds they navigate. And whereas librarians level the playing field for anyone who seeks information and access to technologies, particularly as society continues to transition the way in which information is shared and explored in the online world. And whereas the Pennsylvania Library Association's PA Forward initiative provides a collective voice for the state's libraries to tell their own stories, building capacity for the work they do with and for patrons through 5 literacies: basic, information, civic and social, health, and financial, underscoring the importance of lifelong learning. And whereas Pennsylvania libraries support democracy and affect social change through their commitment to providing equitable access to information for all library users, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status. And whereas April 21st is National Library Workers' Day, a day for all library staff, volunteers, and supporters to highlight the immeasurable contributions made by libraries, April 22nd is National Bookmobile Day, a day recognizing the importance of libraries being available beyond their physical structure. And April 23rd is Take Action for Libraries Day, a day which encourages everyone to recognize how libraries enhance communities and quality of life. And now, therefore, be it resolved that Lycoming County Commissioners proclaim National Library Week, April 19th to the 25th, 2020, in Lycoming County. Residents are encouraged to visit their local libraries this week and beyond, exploring all the libraries have to offer, realizing that literacy is power and that libraries provide the fuel to move Pennsylvania forward. In witness whereof, we have set our hand and seal the 7th day of April 2020. County of Lycoming, Scott L. Metzger, Chairman, Tony Armiser, Vice Chairman, Richard Maravito, Secretary. And I just want to mention that obviously you can't visit the libraries, but you can visit them online. And that is a very important way for people to stay connected, even in this difficult time that we're in. And I just want to mention about the Bookmobile. There's a major campaign for the Bookmobile at the James V. Brown, which serves the whole county, to try to enhance that. Unfortunately, with all that's gone on, the efforts to try to raise those funds this year have gotten a little derailed, but of course, we'll be back on it. And then I would ask, Mr. Chairman, if you recognize Mr. Stout and ask him to identify.
Morning, Mr. Stout.
Morning, Larry Stout. I'm actually one of the officers on the county board for the Lycoming County Library group. And I was just, wow, I had completely forgotten this until you gave the proclamation, Commissioner Maravito, but back in the fall, I was scheduled to speak today at a statewide library symposium, and my topic was the future of libraries. And I was thinking to myself, because what has been happening these last 6 weeks, our board has still been talking. I'm on a regular communication with our local librarian, and we're strategizing how we are going to be more engaged with the community through this, rather than weep at what was in the past. We're using this as perspective for the future, and I would like to think that libraries are going to come out stronger. I'd like to think that we're going to learn from all this, because one of the things, it's the old axiom, you don't appreciate something until it's gone. I think a lot of people realize, wow, I wish I could go to the library. And I've, the people that I've kind of engaged with a bit, I hear that. So I'm looking forward, actually, to the future of libraries. And I appreciate so much your contribution as well, Commissioner Maravito, in focusing on that. And the board's support in every respect, because it really is, and especially our the hub here, James V. Brown, which is really one of the finest libraries in this, really one of the influential for as far as its impact on the community, probably in the whole state. So it's a tremendous resource. It immeasurable services to the local communities, and as you may mention, I know Nicole Alfredo, our local librarian, has been doing videos for kids' crafts, so that they miss their librarian and they get to see her online and do things together, and drawing pictures and telling stories and all that kind of thing. So it's been, yes, a sad time, a rough time, but I would like to think that we're going to come through this stronger. So thank you very much, and thank you for the proclamation.
Thank you, Larry. We've got a fantastic library system throughout the county, and it's a credit to each one of those libraries, and we thank them for their service.
I think also this board, as with other boards, should be very proud of the fact, and it's really the taxpayers who make it happen, because the taxpayers are the ones who put the resources, but as leaders, we have committed, and we have other counties where they don't have a board system, where Montgomery Library would be on its own in trying to do payroll, information services, all the technical things that are done by the board system. So by doing that, we strengthen and enhance a small library like Montgomery or Jersey Shore. But I think as a community, we can feel proud of the fact that we do that, because we're really investing in all of us as people. We're investing obviously in the young people, but also the seniors. Mr. Stout, what's interesting about this time is that if you look at what's happening with libraries going forward, they're talking about bringing resources to the people. Before this even happened, the mantra of libraries nationwide was to get out into the community and bring the resources to people. So for example, people who are in laundromats, we have a system where books are brought to the laundromats, hoping and working with people to try to get them to read and to learn. And I believe that we cannot believe in democracy without believing in libraries, because literacy is key to us being able to have debate and discussion. So thank you, all of us, and the taxpayers especially, for supporting the libraries.
Thank you.
Move on to 5.0, personnel actions with Roxanne Waco.
Morning, Roxanne.
Good morning, Commissioners. At the prison, we have Zachary G. Balliet, full-time correctional officer 1 Cook. This is a change in job code only. He's changing to job code 404. It's pay grade CO1, $17.917 per hour. And this is effective May 3rd, 2020.
Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So carried, thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to our action items. 8.1 and 8.2 are, Director McDermott, are you presenting? Okay.
Commissioners, I'll start this off. We have several members on the conference call that'll chime in. But let me first explain what we're doing here with 8.1. The proposed bond ordinance would authorize the issuance of general obligation bonds in order to refinance for debt service, savings, all or portions of the county's Series A and Series C of 2012 general obligation bonds, as well as the outstanding 2011 revenue bonds of the Lycoming County Recreation Authority. Today's interest rates are at levels which indicate that the county might be able to reduce its debt service obligation on its own bonds, as well as the guarantee payment it has been making on the authority bonds by a total of $800,000 or more. At present, the municipal bond market is extremely volatile. Interest rates are at historic lows, yet bond investors are being extremely cautious. Moreover, under current IRS rules, the portion of the new refunding issue, which would refund the 2012 A bonds, being issued in advance of the August 15, 2022 redemption date of the 2012 A bonds, would need to be issued as federally taxable rather than as conventional tax-exempt municipals. Such factors suggest that the inclusion or exclusion of certain of the prior bonds from the refunding will need to await a careful assessment of the interest rate markets at the time that the bonds are actually sold to investors. However, in order to prepare the county to access the market at this favorable time, enactment of the bond ordinance is recommended, with the knowledge that the county's administrators and professional finance team will provide regular market updates and financial formulations in order to enable the commissioners to make the best possible determination as to when and how much of these prior issues can be refunded for valuable savings.
Thank you.
Chris, do you need to chime in?
Well, as well said as that was, the answer is no, I don't think I need to chime in. That was very well stated, and I think it covers what we're doing with this ordinance. We're trying to tee up the opportunity to take advantage of market conditions if and when and as they open up. Joe, anything about the market today?
It looks like it's starting to open up a bit. There's been a couple of bond issues that have been sold, which is the first step. Now, the interest rates aren't as favorable as they were when we first started talking about the refunding, but hopefully that, as things get a little bit better, the economy opens up a little bit and you start hearing more about, a treatment or a vaccine for, the virus, you'll see that the interest rates will start to come down, because at some point, the treasury market versus the municipal market, there's a huge spread of around 200 basis points, and it's usually not that high. It's much less than 100. So we should see, as the economy starts to get a little bit better, the spread will contract, and hopefully at that point we'd be able to do a bond issue and save the monies that we've promised to the county. But we are, working on the preliminary documents to put the county in the position to be able to sell bonds if and when the interest rates allow.
It should be, can you hear with this mask on, or should I take it? Okay. It should be noted that, Joe and Chris, this move today is also going to allow us with the bridge reconstruction program to take advantage of lower rates if it turns out that the bond market is better than the PIB loan that we've been offered from the state. Correct? I see we have about $7 million in the bond.
That is correct. The idea was to set up both options so that you could make a later decision on what was the most economic and financially beneficial. The rate on the Pennsylvania Infrastructure Bank loan is a reasonably good rate, but it's also a rate that was quoted to the county and John confirmed locked in by the state really at this point 2 years ago. So when we had the market improve as dramatically as it did earlier this year, we could see that the bond market was going to provide you a lower borrowing cost on that work than the state's loan.
This is two separate bonds, correct? One
Well,
for the
it
PIB?
would still be determined how to offer them. We'd offer separate series for the road and bridges. We'd probably only offer them if we were able to accomplish refunding at the same time, because we would have that economy of scale. We don't want to double up cost of issuance on you or anything.
Yeah.
But right now, as rates have risen, as Joe described, we probably would think that the Pennsylvania Infrastructure Bank loan is the better option if you need to get started and have costs that are starting to come in. And so it's your backstop. You know you can certainly borrow for that work at nothing greater than 2 3/8 over 10 years. And if we can make that a better borrowing cost in the time frame we have to work with, then we'll try to do that.
I think the important thing for the public to understand is that we're doing this to reduce the overall amount of debt we have. Obviously, if we do the bridges, that's new debt, but that debt is part of a program to fix the bridges. But other than that, the refinancing is to reduce the existing
And that
debt.
the bridges is in the second enactment of the ordinance.
Right.
It's action 8.2. This is the first one that has to do with debt service.
Right.
That is correct. And please know, as is always the case, no refinancing would be pursued if it caused you to extend the term of your debt, because that's not helping. And it would not be pursued if it caused your debt to go higher. Or let me say it this way, it would only be pursued if the savings was advantageous, and those savings, of course, are after all costs of issuance and after any other expenses, so that you don't save some money on one hand and then have to pay it back out on the other. Always a net calculation.
Right.
And Commissioners, what we're asking for is approval of two separate bond ordinances to allow us to access the markets and see what is feasible.
Right.
Okay, any further discussion? I have a motion to accept action item 8.1, which is the enactment of ordinance number 2020-03, which would reduce debt services by the county.
Ordinance 2020-003, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, I noticed in the back of that, you referenced the bond, the bridge. Unless these were just stapled to the,
They were stapled together by,
the machine. Okay, all right, that's why it's on there. Okay, it's okay, no problem. I just noticed that we had, okay, so the stapling is merely a technicality.
yeah.
Okay,
All together. Have a motion.
I'll move to approve.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, in regards to action item 8.2, which is enactment of the ordinance number 2020-04, that would be the one that would be directly tied to 17 bridges within the county. Management systems, EPM software solutions, in the amount of $9,350. John, do you have any comments?
No, not unless the commissioners have any questions.
Okay, Chris, anything else you want to add?
The only thing to note for the record was that Don worked hard, and then I aided him in convincing the state to allow you to do this on a drawdown basis. And so the borrowings would come as you need some money rather than all at once, and that helps to save interest expense for the county. That advantage is not present if we do this through bonds. That's one of the other considerations as Joe would do a financial analysis on which option is best. But again, on all fronts, we've worked to get you the most flexibility and the greatest set of options to the county's financial benefit. And the ordinance is for a short form ordinance that approves this loan agreement note with the state that really was pursuant to a set of edits I sent to them, and finally edits that came back from their in-house counsel agreeing to what we requested.
Thank you. Is Mr. Williams on the phone? Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept action item 8.2?
I'll move to approve ordinance number 2020-004.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Good to get to work with you on this, and fingers crossed and all the best results
Yes, thank you.
on all fronts.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
8.3, Ed Robbins, approve agreement with Clear Vision Residential Treatment Services.
Morning, Ed. Ed, you with us? Okay.
Sorry, Matt. Matt, you.
Commissioners, Ed Robbins is seeking your approval for an agreement with Clear Vision, which is a residential treatment services center to provide child welfare services for juvenile probation. There is a 2% increase in costs for this year.
Okay, this is for females aged 13 to 17 that are in need of placement outside their home environment.
Right.
Okay. Discussion on this item. Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
A second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. So carried. Thank you, Matt.
8.4, Jason Yorks, approve grant 903 application for the Department of Environmental Protection.
Morning, Jason.
Good morning, it's Lauren.
Oh, hi, Lauren.
Hi, I'm seeking your approval for the annual 903 grant in the amount of $35,985.06. This is the 903 grant is a DEP grant funded for 50% of my position for the salary and the expenses. So the number that you see there is just for the salary portion. The DEP has to accept and approve the expense portion.
Okay. Any discussion on this item? I have a motion to approve action item 8.4, approval of the 903 grant application, Department of DEP.
I'll move to approve.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, and we'll be talking about the recycling program here shortly.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Lauren, are you staying on the line?
I could if you need me to.
Yeah, could you please?
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, 8.5, Ken George, Second Amendment to Agreement with Lutron Services Corporation.
Where
Good
you
morning,
Ken?
Commissioners. This is an agreement with Lutron for our lighting system in the courthouse, and it extends out to 2023. It takes care of any software patches that we need, and it also replaces any of the hardware that would happen to go bad during that time.
Okay, any discussion on this item?
Ken, this has allowed you to save a lot of money on electricity, correct?
It has. We put it a number of years ago. It allows us to do light harvesting, aux sensors, bring the lights up and down at different levels depending on how much light is needed. Yes, it has saved us tens of thousands of dollars over the years.
Thank you.
I agree with you, Ken. I experienced it when I worked next door, and it was very beneficial. The lights would go on and off, and as you entered the room, they would go on, and you didn't have to worry about forgetting to turn them off. They all automatically went off within a very short period of time if you left the room. They were motion censored, which was very good. So I think it has saved an enormous amount of money.
Yes, I agree. It does save us a lot of money as far as lighting's going off and so forth.
Okay, any further discussion? I have a motion to accept action item 8.5.
I'll move to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
8.6, Jenny Picciano, Second Amendment to Agreement with Armstrong Township.
Morning, Jenny.
Good morning, Commissioners. This amendment updates the PennVest budget in the bridge loan agreement between the county and Armstrong Township for the Sylvan Dell project. The original budget included $28,000 for planting and seeding costs and $572,000 for land acquisition costs, which were in the PennVest grant budget. This amendment will actually change the PennVest grant budget to $600,000, which is the entire PennVest grant, and that will cover the 100% of the land acquisition costs that were outlined in the PennVest budget. And that'll shift the cost of the planting and seeding to the county. And that will in turn reduce the county land acquisition match by $28,000. And we're requesting this change in order to close out the PennVest grant sooner, because the seeding is being done over the course of 2 years instead of 1. And that is because, as I've mentioned before in our meetings, that a portion of the property still has some residual corn on it from last year's planting season, and it's actually easier and cheaper to plant the corn, to plant seeding on that portion of the property next year as opposed to paying someone to prep that area for seeding this year.
Okay.
So there's no increase in terms of the county share. We're simply, instead of putting it towards the land, we're putting it towards the plantings and the ground cover.
Yep, that's correct.
And, the other thing I think it's worth mentioning for the public to know is that DCED has not changed any of its deadlines on any grants, right?
So it's PennVest and DCNR are the two.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Did they change any?
No, we have the grants on behalf of the township with this. They have not changed anything with us. or with the township. We're simply trying to close out the grants faster so that both the township and the county could get their reimbursement grant funds back.
Right. I guess so. I guess what I'm trying to say on a separate note here is that the planning department is working very hard to stay on top of these things because the state, notwithstanding what's going on, and DCED has not changed any deadlines.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, they're cooperative, but we are working very hard to get it done. Armstrong Township is going out right now to do the bidding for the seating, so they're working, from home too, and working as needed to get this project done.
Okay, thank you. A motion to accept item 8.6 on the action items.
I'll move to accept.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So carried. Thank you, Jenny.
Thanks.
8.7, 8.8, and 8.9 are all Krista McLaughlin. 8.7 is approved CDBG language access plan for the County of Lycoming.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Kristen.
This is a language access plan, and it will cover not just your CDBG program, but other federal HUD funds that you might receive through like ESG or home funds. And what this is an update to your existing plan, and what has changed is new data has come out with the most recent American Community Survey data information. And you now Lycoming County has now triggered a higher level of compliance with language access plans and dealing with limited English proficiency populations. What has occurred is in Washington Township, you have an influx of people who are speaking a West Germanic dialect, and so that has triggered the need to update this plan. The update specifically, if you had the plan in front of you, is under section 5, I believe, which before you had this 5% population to trigger that, you did not need to provide any translation of vital documents. This change now requires that there is some translation of vital documents for those HUD-funded programs. So that is the change. Everything else stays the same.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on this action item?
That was, did you say that was a West Germanic dialect?
Yes, I believe it's the Amish population there in Washington Township around the Youngsport area. And what you have to do is there's a process called 4-factor analysis on these plans, and the first part of it is whether the county itself or any municipality within the county has a population that speaks English less than very well, and that population has at least 1,000 people or is 5% of the population of that municipality. So Washington Township has just snuck in at the 5% level.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's encouraging. We need population growth.
Absolutely.
And that's exciting to us to know that we're having folks who actually want to come here and live here and build a life here.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I have a motion. Accept action item 8.7.
I'll move to accept action item 8.7.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So carried. Thank you.
Item 8.8 is an update to your citizen participation plan, and this changes or adds, or not changes, it adds 2 sections to your existing plan. Everything else stays the same, and these 2 additions are to allow for CDBG meetings or hearings to take place virtually, like we're doing right now. And so if we needed to have a hearing for CDBG funds or other federal HUD funds, such as ESG or home funds, you would be able to do that virtually. It provides a process wherein the community can comment, as is typical during a hearing. And also, for, emergency situations wherein we might need to have a hearing sooner rather than later for urgent needs, urgent community needs. And these two changes are in a direct response to the current COVID situation. If we were to have a hearing virtually, a public hearing, either for the CARES Act funding that we expect to be coming to Lycoming County or for your annual entitlement allocation, we would have a difficult time being able to do that under the existing citizen participation plan, but this process, this update to the plan outlines exactly what we would need to do in order to either have an emergency hearing or have a virtual hearing.
Kristen, this is a good example of how this virus is rewriting everything and how we go about conducting business.
Absolutely, and we would think for a long time we've been waiting to be able to have things like virtual meetings, and all of a sudden, this pandemic comes along and everyone says, "Oh yes, absolutely, we need to make plans for this." So this outlines essentially how citizens will participate in that process if we do need to have virtual hearings.
Kristen, notice that it requires us to be in an ADA accessible location, and it also provides a variety of ways for the public to access video, audio, etc. I assume we're obligated to have some sort of captioning so that the hearing impaired are able to follow?
Usually what happens in a hearing process is that this is a great question. We include information in the hearing notices about accessing taking advantage of particular special needs that someone might have and how we would provide for them. So just as if and we provide a way for them to contact us to let us know that, hey, there's going to be someone that's hearing impaired going to be attending the hearing. How can we address that and make sure that they're able to understand and fully participate in the hearing, even if it were person-to-person, normal, typical situation. This is language that came out from the CED requirements. So yes, we do need to make sure that we have accommodations as necessary. But I think our hearing notice would probably remain relatively the same, that we would ask if that person could contact us prior to, and we would make whatever we needed to available for them so that they could fully participate.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, can I have a motion to accept action item 8.8?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried. Thank you.
And then the last item that I have on the agenda is a resolution to appoint a language access coordinator. Matt McDermott currently is the language access coordinator, but when we update the language access plan, we need to update the resolution. So that is all that is doing, is reiterating that Matt McDermott is the language access coordinator.
Okay. I have a motion to accept action item 8.9.
I'll move.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Yep, have a great day. Thank you.
You too.
9.0, we're moving to Brooke Wright, a 9.1 real estate refund.
Morning, Brooke.
Good morning, Commissioners. The first thing is a refund for Daniel Robinson. The parcel was appealed due to a change of assessment notice, and the refund amount is $2,907.45. The reason this refund is so much is the owner purchased a church down in Hughesville Borough back in late July of 2019. He received a change of assessment notice in November because we made it taxable, which gave him that right to file an appeal. And then I had to wait 3 months for him to get an appraisal into me. He only paid $115,000 for the church. So and then once I reviewed the appraisal and made the adjustment, he paid the county taxes the first week of March instead of waiting for me to do a revised bill. So I have to refund him the money.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, I would motion to accept Board of Assessments revision action, or excuse me, Board of Assessment revisions, item 9.1.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
The next item I have is 9.2 is real estate exonerations. These were revisements due to the billing file being unlocked in January. So some were from appeals, some were people got their tax bills and said, oh, I tore the house down in 2019. As you can see, some were veterans exemptions that we get after the bills are sent out and everything. So I'm just requesting approval on these real estate exonerations.
Any questions or discussion on these real estate exonerations? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried. Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Commissioner comment?
We have several things today. First of all, I would like to remind the public about the census and how important it is to fill out our census, especially during these times. There's no census workers walking around the houses. It was mailed to the residents, and it's very important that we fill those out. You can do it online. It takes about less than 5 minutes to do it online. Every resident that is not counted in Lycoming County results in about $2,000 of lost revenue for state and federal funding. So over the course of 10 years, that's $20,000 per resident. And it's very important to count our residents because, for instance, what's going on with the COVID, as those funds come back to the county, they're looking at populations. And they're looking at the most populated areas, get the monies first. And that's just one aspect of how the funding from the federal and state government gets dispersed back to the counties. So it's very important that we are counted and all the different funding sources that are out there. By us not having our residents counted, it just lays the basis for increased taxes, because it shifts the tax burden onto the local people. So it's very important we take those few minutes and fill out our census. Number two, I'd like to talk about, and I've been emphasizing this quite a bit over the last 3 weeks, is the hunger issue in our area. Pennsylvania is now number 2 in the country in unemployment claims. And with that comes a lot of issues, and one of them is hunger. Spoke to 2 restaurants yesterday down in the Toursville area that are feeding our kids. In Toursville, 1 out of every 4 kids are going without food down in that area. The one restaurant was feeding 50 to 75 kids at lunchtime per day. And that's just one area of our county. The Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, they're distributing, the food is up about 50%. They need help from the people in this community. This is not just a local problem, it's going to turn into a national problem the longer this goes on. So as commissioners, we've discussed this. We're looking at helping our Central PA Food Bank, and we'll be coming out with an announcement in the very near future about how we're going to assist them. But it's very important that we address this because we can't have people going without food. Any comments?
You know, on that issue also, if there are organizations that are distributing food for the Central PA Food Bank, for example, the American Rescue Workers or even Fire Tree Place, is a site, and there are other
Salvation
sites.
Army.
Salvation Army. I think it would be helpful if you contacted us and let us know what, if there's ways that we can assist, because it may be also that we may assist the Central PA Food Bank, but if we can't get the food out on the other side. So we'd love to hear from those organizations. But it's a good point, Commissioner. It's a real problem.
Yeah, we reached out to Central Pennsylvania Food Bank after Scott identified a need, and through Act 13, we could help support them. And this was a response from Joe Arthur, the executive director of the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank. Commissioners, it was great talking with you this morning, and we are so thankful to hear about the commissioners might move to have some Lycoming County support for our crisis locally. The amount of need locally in the county is running at least 25% more than the same time last year, and the economic crisis is increasing. We need plenty of support locally, so we will guarantee that the Lycoming funds are used to support our food assistance operations for the people in Lycoming County. Thank you so much.
Okay, so it is a dire need, and we'll be addressing this, and anyone is in a position where they can assist, to do that good deed, to pay it forward, please do so. No matter how small it is, every little bit helps. The third thing is our recycling. I believe this may be the #1 phone call that I've received in the past month. We expressed reasons why the recycling process was halted, and we're now in the process of starting that back up. We spoke to Jason Yorks over at the landfill on Friday. Our initial plan is to have two local sites in the greater Williamsport and greater Williamsport area. If anybody's been to a recycling bin around Christmas time, it gets pretty full within a matter of hours. Now magnify that by about a month. So we have to make sure that where we do this, we don't have traffic congestion, make sure that people can get in and out for safety reasons. And so we're trying to hit the brunt of this on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in these two locations. And we'll be issuing a press release tomorrow where those locations will be at. While we're doing that, on Monday and Tuesday, we'll come back and hit the Jersey Shore and East Lycoming areas with the same process. And at that time, we'll be starting to drop the bins at the sites. So get that initial brunt collected of the recyclables, and then start the normal process from there on out. The RMS crew has been called back to work. They're diligent working over there to get caught up on what was left when they left. And Lauren, do you have anything you want to add to this?
I brought Jason Yorkson with me, so he might have something additional to add.
Okay. Good morning, Jason. Would you like to elaborate on it?
Right now, we have the media release we're getting prepared for. Yes, we will do 2 locations in the greater Williamsport area from 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And we're still working out the logistics on Monday, starting in Monday. The goal is to get our processing back up. That's the biggest hindrance. If we left the sites unstaffed, they would become they'd just be like Christmas, like you said, sir. The other thing is we're trying to protect our employees and the public from each other as far as handling the materials and keep it in an orderly fashion manner. And once our processing is up to run, once we have enough of the staff in the building with the temp agency and the work release program, we'll hopefully get everything back up to normal. So it's going to be probably a 2-week process. I just ask for the patience of my public. I appreciate the support from the commissioners for what we've been trying to get through. So we will get there, and everybody will be able to get their recycling back. I guess the other thing I'd like to say is I'd like to thank the public for their enormous support of the recycling program. We do more than just support like Cumming. We have several other counties that we provide recycling for, but to get back on our feet, we're just going to start here at these 2 sites in Williamsport area. But just thank everybody for the huge shout out about recycling.
And also, I'd like to add is we're lucky to restart or reopen, even if it's a small amount, and it's Earth Day tomorrow. So, I mean, that's pretty much on a good note then.
Okay. I just want to add that we are taking safety precautions, especially with our employees. They will wear masks. We ask that the public, when you show up, that you please have a mask. We opened up our transfer station and our landfill to the public last week, and we want to reiterate that when you arrive at these locations, please have a mask on, and as you're talking to our workers, and they'll likewise also have them on. And we're going to keep social distancing. We're doing all the precautions for our employees, and we're asking the public to do the same. Commissioner Rubito.
When do you actually think the green machine will start up with the folks from the PRC? Is that in a week?
We're starting to process. The building currently, the tipping floor was full when we left it shut down. So we're digging out of what we have now. We're actually started this morning the pre-sort, what we call in the fiber line. Tomorrow we're going to try to get back into doing the plastics and everything. So we're starting now. We're going to dig out. That way we have some capacity to start receiving the material.
And we're going to make sure all those folks at the PRC have masks on, correct?
So they have masks when they leave the farm over to county PRC center. They have masks on then. My staff are driving with masks, and then they come over and then we're giving them masks here to be on the sort line with.
Okay. Because my one concern is somehow we get something into our prison system that could be problematic. I think it's really important to ask the public to wear those masks. We got reports of people coming to the transfer station without masks, standing next to other people, and we all need to sort of just cooperate a little if we want to get the recycling going and the transfer station open. We need to try to follow those basic, at least until the Department of Health tells us that we no longer have to wear the masks and so forth.
Okay, Commissioner Massar?
Yeah, I have a few things here. First of all, I'd like to send my condolences out to the Buston family. We lost a good colleague of ours, a Bradford County Commissioner, Ed Buston. He had a massive heart attack 2 days ago. And he was very instrumental in helping with behavioral health and a number of the task force at CCAP. It is a tragic loss, and he will forever be remembered by this Board of Commissioners for certain. You know, many people see light at the end of the tunnel with this coronavirus, and others are still swirling in the whirlpool of uncertainty and disbelief. I have to tell people this: challenging times they are, and especially for the elderly and the business community, two different groups, but nonetheless equal concerns. And sometimes it's just best to turn off the news and read something positive and find movies that are funny, because it can all be depressing, trust me. And that's a message I want to send out to everybody. You know, be positive. Watch your neighbors. Make sure everything's okay. When I mean watch your neighbors, I don't mean turn them in. I mean see how they're doing. Another main issue, and we talk about it, but I just don't believe that people understand the importance of it. Wearing a mask, okay, it's proven in other countries such as Taiwan and Switzerland to be the most effective way of not spreading the virus. So I was down in Harrisburg yesterday at the rally, and I mean, we were short of 100,000 people, which was a little disappointing, but we had a good time nonetheless. And you know, businesses are going to start to reopen very shortly, but still, these masks are very important, and don't take it lightly, because regardless of whether we're wearing them or not, I still believe that there will be another surge, a second surge, maybe a third surge, but we still need to take every precaution necessary, and that's one of the reasons why our landfill and transfer stations and recycling were closed, because it's important that we protect as many people as we can. Thank you.
Do you have anything?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So I also want to echo my colleague's comments about Ed Buston. Ed at the last CCAP conference did he was an EMT for a long time, and he did a whole presentation for us on trying to deal with the EMT crisis. And he was, yesterday I was attending virtually the Behavioral Task Force meeting, which I'm part of, and Ed was an important part of that in trying to just figure out how we can deal with mental illness in our prisons and other behavioral health issues. So he was a great person, and the best we can do is to try to live our lives the way Ed lived his. The second thing I just wanted to mention today is one of the other things the Commissioner is very concerned about, in addition to the hunger, is how our families are doing with the learning. Because we know that all these kids are at home, and you know, there's issues of discipline in terms of getting them to sit down. I think we can appreciate more how difficult it is for teachers when they have 20 or 22 kids in a room, and when you've got 2 or 3 kids at home of different grades, a second grader, a fourth grader, a sixth grader, and you're trying to do your own job from home, and at the same time you're trying to make sure that your kids do their work. And in that regard, the three of us have discussed the whole question of 2 things: the internet access, because the schools are sending the material out via the internet. If someone doesn't have access, they're sending paper materials, but it obviously is a huge advantage for our kids to be able to have access. We know, Commissioner Metzger, you mentioned that at the school in Montoursville, they've got a device on the school, and one of the things that would be helpful, but that means you have to drive to the school. So if it's on the Jersey Shore school and you live 30 minutes away, you've got to bring your kid in and sit in the parking lot. So we're going to try to look at that. And then the other thing is, the other part of this equation, because I'm actually not sure, and we don't know what's going to happen in the fall with school in August, whether they will still be able to bring kids together or not. But devices in the home. You know, when I first heard about the school districts giving out devices, I guess I thought, well, you know, giving them a laptop or whatever. What I've come to understand is that the device is the textbook. It's the textbook that we had when we were kids growing up. And so you wouldn't give a second grader a textbook for a 10th grader. So from the device angle, and I don't know if some of you saw it, but there was an article in the paper about the Montoursville, the challenge of the Montoursville School District. So the three of us need to look at this, but we need input from the public on it, because imagine you got 3 or 4 kids, they're sharing one device. And so they're trying to do their homework, and they're trying to connect to get it done. And you're trying to get them not only to be focused, but now they're fighting over who's going to use the device. This one doesn't want to use the device now, and I got stuck using it later in the day. I think we don't want our kids to fall behind, especially vis-a-vis other parts of the country, but our own community, because they're the workforce of tomorrow for this community. I mean, we have to be real. The place where we're going to get our workforce is here, because it's so hard getting population growth. So we'll look at that. But if the public could just send us emails, let us know what is happening, the challenges, it would help us. Like the hunger issue, would help us to understand it.
Yesterday, our governor extended the stay-at-home order till May the 8th. And last night, as I wrapped my mind around another extension, I couldn't help ask myself, what's going to happen next? I was raised to respect authority and the chain of command. I was also raised to respect the Constitution and people's rights. That's our foundation in that 233-year-old document. Please do not mistake what I'm about to say. I understand people are dying from this, and no one wants that. I get it just as much as the next guy. This virus is serious. No one wants anyone to die from suicide, addiction, or any other disease. In World War II, everyone had a family member who knew a family that had a son, a daughter, a brother, or sister, or an entire family go off to war. They didn't know when this was all over whether we'd be speaking English, Japanese, German. Everything was rationed. You were only allowed so much milk and bread a month. Everything was restricted by the war effort, and nothing was wasted. Something else was going on at the same time. Diseases, such as polio and measles, were crippling and killing thousands. They didn't close the schools in World War II. Houses were quarantined almost every block throughout communities. And the reason why I'm sharing this history lesson is because it was shared with me by my parents who lived this during their teenage years. Today we face a virus and we're responsible. Now it's time to use common sense and practice the guidelines given to us for opening America again. The virus is smart and it's going to be with us for some time. So we have a choice. We can either stay in our houses until someone says it's safe to come out. And when's that going to be? Some governors feel that's going to be when there's a vaccination or there's no more positive cases. That's totally irresponsible and unrealistic. During these times, we have seen mayors in New York City and LA encouraging their citizens to tell on others. You'll be rewarded, they say. But it's okay to harbor illegal immigrants. New York City mayor says, if you go to the synagogue, I'll close it down permanently. Let's go to church on Easter Sunday in Kentucky. Going to receive a $500 citation. In Michigan, you cannot visit your family or relatives now, but you can buy a bottle of liquor, but you can't buy a can of paint or a bouquet of roses. Where is the common sense? The newest one this week is if you have a yard service, mow your yard, it's now banned in the state of Michigan. The guy outside by himself can't mow your yard in the state of Michigan. So those folks who can't mow their yards are now receiving citations for their yard, the grass being too high. Pennsylvania, we're no different. You can buy a car in 47 states, but not Pennsylvania, Idaho, or Hawaii. The two most affected states, New York and New Jersey, you can buy a car. Small contractors cannot work, even outside, but they can go fishing together if they wish. Our kids have been uprooted to where they can't even gather together for recreation or education. But remember my earlier statement that during the greatest generation, those kids went to school during a world war with diseases and no vaccinations. Let's talk about small businesses. They make up 55% of this great land. They had their doors shut without any warning. They didn't have time to prepare. They prefer the government not help them. They just want to open back up and do what's right. Our business people are some of the most innovative and creative people in the world. They don't want government telling them what to do and what government thinks is best for them. They simply want the guidelines and they can go with it. Many have used the same creativity to remain open with their safeguards in place or change operations to make products to battle against this pandemic. Now it's time to give the people the guidelines and get out of the way. It's the People's Republic, and they can place the safeguards to reopen. They don't want anyone to get sick either. COVID-19 is not going away anytime soon. We must remember that 90% of our cases recover at home. 2.5% end up in ICU. The key here is to protect our elderly and individuals with pre-existing health issues. A safer at home would protect those who are vulnerable, which is what the governor in Oklahoma is implementing, a safer at home ordinance for those individuals. We can test and test and test and continue to test, but on day 4, it could get the virus. Until a vaccination, or what they've referred to as herd immunity, is established, we're going to have this demon in the world. Tennessee, South Carolina, and Georgia are all reopening this Friday with safeguards in place. Georgia has very similar numbers to Pennsylvania. Continued isolation will result in more depression, addiction, domestic violence, heart attacks, where they're 5-fold in New York City compared to last year at this time, and other related health issues due to stress, loss of hope, hunger, and poverty. Another thing that my parents shared with me of the stories of the Great Depression was men used to knock on their door and ask them if they had any bread or soup to share. If anyone doesn't think that can happen again, you better think twice. We're heading for history to repeat itself. Our local food bank, as we heard here today, needs help. It's the year 2020. Let's not repeat the Great Depression. What we are in right now is a colossal calamity. Thank you.
I could add, I think it's important that every governor, every elected official, they have to react in a manner in which they see fit. It's not easy to choose between jobs and death, and I'm not advocating either. I'm just saying that it's a really tough position to be put in to be an elected official today, because you do care about your communities. And on the lighter note, we do need our barber shops reopened, because Mr. Marabito threatened to tie his hair in a bun here if...
That's a scary thought.
So the only thing I would say, other than needing a haircut, is that, and I'm sure that Commissioner Metker was not saying this, we do need to listen to the health experts. One of the things about politicians is that sometimes we think we know everything, but we should always listen to the health experts and look at this time as an opportunity to reconnect with people who we are always saying, geez, I wish I had more time to play ball with my son, or I wish I had more time to be home for dinner, because we're running around all the time. Before we know it, we will be back to life as, quote, normal, and we will be stressed to the max. So I appreciate what my colleagues are saying. I think we should try to hang in there. The governor, May 8th, was actually, I think, of dialing back from May 15th. Because I thought I had...
That was the New York mayor.
Oh, that was the New York mayor. Okay, New York Governor, okay. So the May 8th is only about, what, 2 weeks away?
17 days.
17 days away, yeah. So hang in, try to use the time. And honestly, if I mean, Mr. Metzger raised a good point. If you are in crisis, and especially for people who live alone, you should reach out to the agencies that exist and other people. And as Mr. Messer said, check in on someone who you know is alone.
Yeah, 211.
211, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yep, call 211.
Yep. Any public comment?
I had no email.
Okay. Mr. Stout, thank you for joining us again.
Yes, it's great to represent the public. Larry Stout again.
Mm-hmm.
As I understand it, one of the bills that was passed in Harrisburg, it had to do with local, that could be county by county opening. Does the county have a plan? Does Lycoming County have an opening plan specifically for Lycoming County?
I don't think that was
That was not passed.
It was not passed.
It was not signed.
And CCAP supports a regional approach. Mr. Becerra can address that.
So is that anywhere? I'm just wondering, I mean, just assuming, let's hope and pray that, May 8th actually happens.
We would like to.
Is there going to be something that could be presented so that people would have some expectations, what they can do, what they can't do, what they should expect at a local level, if that's the way it's going to happen? That's my question.
CCAP had a meeting, which we were all involved with, dealing directly with that issue because the Senate, and I don't recall the Senate Bill 613 or something, or 84.
That's one that passed.
Yeah.
Okay. But, to open up the economies as you shut them down, so the counties would have the option of opening up. That did not get signed by the governor. And I was in favor of it, although CCAP overall was for the regional approach to open up. And you can understand.
Define a region?
Well, okay, and there was the discourse and the debate, because if you look at it from a competitive point of view, if you allowed certain counties to open, then they would have a competitive advantage over the counties that were not. And some of these counties were certainly, you look at Berks, and you look at Luzerne, and you look at some of them that have thousands of cases and even deaths, okay, to let other counties open, because they weren't, that was their argument. And my argument was that, please, let us. I felt that we have a very good relationship, and you talk about the regionalized, okay, that the connecting counties, we're all colleagues, we're all friends, and I'm certain we could come to certain agreements, as far as opening, and take the competitiveness out of doing so. But the board did not necessarily agree with that.
So it'll be a statewide.
Well, if you look at what's happening, there is an opening. For example, what is the date that the governor gave when construction is going to resume? May 8th. So there is a plan to have construction resume on May 8th. There's online purchasing of automobiles, and the other one was the
Liquor stores.
The liquor stores. But I think that part of what it is the transmission rate has to get down to a certain level. When they opened Wuhan, China, the transmission rate was at 0.3, which I believe means that one person is infected, or I can't remember the exact number of people, but the point is that I read recently that we were at like 0.9 or 0.8. So part of it is trying to get the transmission rate. One of the things we have to be aware of is that if they open this up tomorrow, we have people who travel across the state, from Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, New York, all over. And if they're traveling and they happen to stay in one of our hotels and they give it to the clerk and the clerk passes it on. So I think part of what the hesitancy is to, even though we don't have a lot of cases here, we're tied with each other. I mean, if this pandemic taught us anything, we're tied with each other on a worldwide basis, right? But we're tied with the big cities, even though we don't have the population density. So that's what part of the, I think part of the concern is. That's why I say listen to the scientists, follow the science. Look at it's a math issue, and it's
an outstanding study is the Stanford study. Matter of fact, they've been spot on with their assessment. And I believe his name is Dr. Ioannis, and he is a statistician plus a health expert. And so it's best of both worlds for him. And he is spot on with his predictions. So I would recommend people look at the Stanford study.
And I do want to add that I'm giving a shout out to our legislators as well, because they have been working on bills, drafting bills to get this economy kick-started. And some pass and others don't. And for whatever reason, you know, it's hard to believe our traffic jam is 4 cars, you know, and you go to New York City or Philadelphia, you know, it's amazing at the difference of, you know, we're talking about density, people in a square mile. I don't know, Scott, you brought that up. You should have brought
79 people in a square mile, and in some parts of the county, 17 people per square mile. And the density is downtown Williamsport, when everything's operating as normal, is 150 people per square mile. So that's a major reason why I think our area's been spared, plus the people being responsible and their social distancing and taking this serious. And I think we can start to open up things again by letting people do that with the safeguards in place, just using common sense. Like I said, this virus is not going away. It's going to be there until we have a vaccination or herd immunity is established amongst us, where you become immune to it because you either had it or your immune system's built up against it.
You know, as I think about this, we should be in some ways very thankful what the governor's done, because if the governor opens up the state, and the more I think of folks traveling to, even though we have low density, people traveling all across the state, we could have the virus spread with all the work we've done for the past 4 weeks down the tubes. You know, we get some folks staying at hotels, we get some folks coming here to do business, we send families back and forth visiting. So I think we just have to be patient, listen to the scientists, try to just be self-disciplined about it, and we'll get through.
And Larry, in response to your earlier question, we will be in coordination with UPMC, with Steve Johnson, and listening to their guidelines as they move forward, working together as a partnership. That's, I believe, on all our agendas. That's very important. Okay. Motion to adjourn. Hearing we've completed the agenda, so we don't need a motion. There will be no meeting on Thursday. The next meeting will be our work session, regular scheduled work session, which will be Tuesday, April 28th. And thank you. And everyone have a safe day and stay healthy.